Hey Nathan, let's take a look at your week 2 assignment 3 drawing here. Excuse me. Still a very good drawing, just as what we were seeing in the last assignment was, I think, a good series of drawings. Marker usage feels, I would say, pretty good overall. I think your paper may be having some pooling issues, maybe some bleeding issues, but it keeps some pretty good edge quality, but there are areas where I think it starts to build up a little bit too much. Excuse me, and you might need to do something about maybe spreading it out a little bit more for whatever reason. It occurs in some areas, really doesn't occur in others, so it's just something to kind of take a look at, and how whatever way you approach kind of down here as opposed to how you were approaching it, over here or within some of the shapes themselves. The textural stuff, I think it's very good. It's very specific. It feels pretty accurate overall. I do think that still have issues with kind of the wood texture where it feels a little overworked and it doesn't come across quite as specifically as I would kind of like for it to be. This sphere looks very, very good overall, but I think in both the stone textures, getting a little bit of color introduction into them can help. I've given this commentary to a lot of people in class, which is that it feels very limited on the color front. I think it helps out a lot that you have a background and a ground plane that are colored in a different way, but the shapes themselves, with the exception of the wood, there's not really any color in place in any of them. A little bit of blue in the metal that's reflecting from the sky, which is nice, but it's very minimal. And so being able to introduce, just a little bit of color into the stone, a little bit of color into the other stone, just flecks of color even, it doesn't even have to be like a huge amount of coverage, but just little bits here and there can really help out. And I think it's just, for me, the issue is that you miss out on the opportunity to experience layering the marker more. You have grays kind of being layered, which is good, but there is something to layering color, because the color starts to interact with the colors underneath, and it does things that sometimes unexpected, sometimes expected, but it's just good to get that experience in. So I'd actually like to see a little bit more of that occur. I'd also like to see just a little more cast shadow in place, working with a gray and just laying in some very, very kind of loose kind of cast shadows to give the ground plane a little bit more substance. The lighting situation is consistent pretty much across the board, which is great to see. So it is understandable where the light source is coming from, but the cast shadows almost always give you a definitive answer to the whole lighting question, and both of them working together, you shading the objects consistently and getting a cast shadow in place, just help overall realism throughout the drawing. I think you're still doing a good job. I think color is just something that you're going to end up doing eventually. I just kind of would like everyone to get a little more of a head start, a little more experience before we go into the next week. But it's good that you're dealing with the ground plane and the background with a certain amount of color, which does liven up the drawing more and keeps it from feeling completely monochromatic. And texturally, I think you're doing, for the most part, a really good job with it, and spending a lot of time with them to make them feel and look the way that they do. So on that kind of front, you definitely want to keep it up, and we'll just see you again for next week's assignments.